My name is Evelyn Marie Harper, though the only soul who ever used the full Marie was Mama when she was truly meant business, so most folks just call me Evelyn or, these days, Miss Evelyn now that my hair has gone the color of creek ice in January. I was born right here in the front bedroom of 214 Dogwood Lane, Willow Creek, Kentucky, on the 12th of March 1946, while the dogwood trees were blooming so thick the whole lane looked like the Lord had shaken a sack of powdered sugar over pink cotton candy. The midwife, Mrs. Delphia Coots, God rest her busy tongue, told Mama I came out squalling loud enough to wake the neighbors 3 farms over and gripping her fingers so hard she had to pry me loose with her teeth. That one, she declared, wiping me clean with a flour sack towel, is gonna hold on to whatever she loves till Gabriel blows his horn. She was right. I have held on to this house the way a June bug holds on to a screen door in a thunderstorm. I have lived under this roof every single day of my 78 years, except for 6 lonely months in 1991, when my husband Tommy was stationed at Fort Knox, and we rented the little walk-up apartment above Petals, an Amp, Posey's florist shop on 4th Street in Louisville. Even then, I drove the 120 miles home every other Friday night with a Tupperware of fried chicken riding shotgun so the house would not forget the smell of supper. These walls know the sound of my stocking feet at 5:30 a.m. when I pad to the percolator. The heart pine floors still carry the faint scar where Ruth and I dragged Mama's cedar hope chest the day we thought we were running away to Nashville at ages 10 and 12. The kitchen window still wears the star-shaped crack Daddy put in it. The afternoon President Kennedy was shot, he dropped a quart mason jar of sweet tea when Walter Cronkite's voice broke on the radio, and the glass shattered like the whole country's heart did that day. This house is stitched into my bones the way bourbon is stitched into Kentucky soil. And every December since 1969 it wears the same crown of glory, the original General Electric C9 Christmas lights. Daddy bought the very week Neil Armstrong took one small step for man and one giant leap for backyard decorators everywhere. $19.95 plus tax at the Western Auto in Bowling Green. Big, fat ceramic base bulbs the size of a ripe peach, hand-painted in ruby red, emerald green, sapphire blue, and warm amber that glows like melted butterscotch. Daddy stood on a wooden ladder in his Sunday overalls, humming Joy to the World, twisting cup hooks into the eaves with fingers still stained from stripping tobacco. When he plugged them in that first night, Mama cried happy tears into her apron. Ruth, already 23, already on husband number 1, rolled her eyes and called them tacky as a $10 perm, and I, home from secretarial school for the weekend, stood barefoot on the cold porch and thought I had never seen anything so beautiful in my whole life. 56 years later, they are still the most beautiful thing I have ever seen, and they are the reason my only sister Ruth has not crossed the Willow Creek city limits since Christmas Eve 2023. But I'm getting ahead of myself the way I do when the coffee is fresh and the memories are sweet. Come in, sugar. Kick off your shoes. Let me pour you a cup. Folgers, cream, and 2 sugars unless you tell me different, and I'll take this story slow the way you take a fruitcake layer by layer. Soaked good in Kentucky bourbon, wrapped in cheesecloth, and left to age until it can stand up and sing Oh Holy Night all on its own. First you have to understand the house itself, because a house like this doesn't just sit on land. It grows out of it the way a morel mushroom grows out of rotten oak in April. Daddy and Mama built it in 1940 with his GI Bill money and her egg money saved in Folgers cans under the kitchen sink. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom with a clawfoot tub big enough to baptize a sinner in, a kitchen big enough to fry chicken for the entire deacon board on 5th Sundays, and a wraparound porch Daddy added in 1952 so Mama could shell purple hull peas and watch Ruth and me chase lightning bugs till the streetlights blinked on. The floors are heart pine that glows like dark honey when the afternoon sun slants through the pecan tree. The windows are the original wavy glass that makes the outside world look like it's underwater in the gentlest way. By the time Daddy dropped dead in the tobacco field in the summer of '79, massive coronary, gone before he hit the ground, and Mama slipped away peaceful in her sleep in the spring of '84, the house was paid for free and clear, not a penny owed to any bank, just a clear deed and a lifetime of love baked into the walls. Mama wrote her will on 2 pieces of blue-lined notebook paper in her perfect Palmer penmanship and had it witnessed by Preacher Mills and Mr. Garvey down at First Farmers Bank. It was simple as cornbread. To my beloved daughters Ruth Marie Harper Delaney Buckley Whitlow Lord, that woman collected last names the way some women collect salt and pepper shakers, and Marie Evelyn Harper, I leave my home at 214 Dogwood Lane, Willow Creek, Kentucky, in equal shares. The daughter who resides therein shall have life estate, and upon her passing the property shall pass to the surviving sister. Mama thought that was fair. Ruth thought that was a starting pistol. I never remarried after Tommy's Black Hawk went down in the desert in February 1991. Ruth married 3 times, divorced 3 times, and spent money the way spring rain spends itself fast, loud, and leaving nothing but mud. By the fall of 2021, she was 69 going on broke, living in a rust-colored single-wide outside Bowling Green with a man named Dwayne who repossessed cars for a living and kept a pit bull named Killer on a logging chain shorter than my patience. One cold Tuesday in October 2021, the screen door squeaked open and there stood Ruth in a fake mink coat, 2 sizes too big, 2 leopard print suitcases, and crocodile tears that would have won her an Academy Award if Hollywood had any sense. "Evie, darlin'," she crooned, voice trembling like a hymn, "I'm tired of being alone. Let your big sister come home where she belongs." I should have latched that screen door and pretended I was deaf as a post, but the house was quiet enough to hear the hallway clock strike the half hour, and the thought of another Christmas with only the hum of the refrigerator for company made my heart pinch like new patent leather shoes. So I said, "Just till you get back on your feet, Ruthie," and held the door wide. Lord forgive me, I had no idea those feet were planning to stay planted for 2 solid years and kick me out of my own life while they were at it. The first 6 months Ruth lived here were almost pleasant, the way the first frost is almost pleasant before you realize it's going to kill every last zinnia in the yard. She took the blue bedroom upstairs, the one with the dormer window that looks straight down onto Mama's peony bed. She hung her leopard print robe on the back of the door, filled the dresser with Avon perfume that smelled like a funeral home exploded, and announced she was finally home where I belong. I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. She cooked supper some nights, mostly hamburger helper and boxed macaroni, but she did make red velvet cake that came within shouting distance of Mama's, and she helped me drape cedar garland along the staircase banister while humming Silver Bells off-key. We trimmed the tree together with the same ornaments Mama painted in 1957, the little wooden church, the angel with one wing glued back on, the glass pickle nobody ever finds until February. I let myself believe that 3 divorces in 70 years had finally sanded down her sharp corners. Then the corners started cutting. It began with Mama's silver, the reed and amp. Barton Francis I pattern Daddy bought 1 piece at a time during the Eisenhower years. One Tuesday morning I opened the dining room drawer to set the table for the Ladies' Missionary Society and 3 teaspoons were gone. I asked Ruth. She fluttered her false eyelashes and said, "Oh honey, a burglar must have come in the night." 6 months later I found those same spoons in the zippered pocket of her cosmetic bag when she sent me upstairs for her blood pressure pills. I borrowed them for a dinner party at the trailer and forgot. She trilled, like borrowing without asking was a thing polite people did. Next came the stories. She told Mrs. Jenkins at the beauty barn that I was starting to lose my memory and she had moved in to keep poor Evelyn from hurting herself. Told Pastor Bob I left the stove on twice and almost burned the house down. I hadn't used the burners in a week. Told the mailman I couldn't see well enough to read my own bills anymore. Every single morning she beat me to the mailbox with a smile sharp as a paring knife and a "let me help you with that, sugar, before you strain your eyes." By spring 2023 she had promoted herself to full-time warden of my life. She rearranged my pantry so the vanilla was behind the turnip greens and I had to get on my knees to find it. She signed the house up for the Garden Club Christmas home tour without asking. She started sighing loud enough to rattle the china every time I reached for my checkbook. "Evie, honey," she'd say, patting my hand like I was the child. "Maybe you ought to let me handle the money. You're getting confused. I am 78 years old. My knees pop like popcorn when I climb stairs. I forget where I put my glasses 17 times a day, but I have never, not once in 78 years, been confused about who owns this house, who paid the taxes on it, and who swept these floors with her own hands for 6 decades. I smiled the sweet widow smile I perfected at 100 church potlucks and said, "Bless your heart," in that special Kentucky way that means go jump in the lake wearing concrete shoes. Then I started planning, because Ruth had declared war, and the battlefield she chose was Christmas itself. Ruth loves Christmas the way a drunk loves whiskey, the way a gambler loves cards, the way a crow loves anything shiny, loud, expensive, and with no thought for tomorrow. Every November, she turns into a one-woman North Pole on amphetamines. 5 trees, 1 in the parlor, 1 in the dining room, 1 in the hallway, 1 on the landing, and a skinny artificial one in the bathroom for ambiance. Animatronic reindeer that play 8 different carols on motion sensor. Blow mold Santas that glow from the inside out. A life-size nativity on the lawn complete with real hay that the neighbor's cats immediately used as a litter box. And lights. Hundreds and hundreds of cold white LED icicles that look like the house caught frostbite and is waiting for amputation. In October 2023, she began the campaign. "Evie, those old bulbs are a fire hazard. They're older than most folks in this town. I saw a set of LED icicles at Costco, 200 feet for only $299. Think how elegant we'd look." I told her those 1,969 C9 seconds were family, antiques, sacred, and staying exactly where Daddy hung them. She smiled the way a fox smiles at a henhouse door smiles. Slow and certain. From that day on, it was daily bombardment. She printed articles from the internet about vintage Christmas lights causing house fires and left them on my breakfast plate like tracks from a cult. She called the power company pretending to be me and scheduled an emergency safety inspection. She told Fire Chief Mooney at the Piggly Wiggly checkout that my poor sister is too proud and won't listen, and I'm afraid we'll both burn up in our beds. She hid my aluminum step stool in the shed. She accidentally knocked an entire strand off the porch rail one afternoon and cracked 3 irreplaceable bulbs, then acted heartbroken when I cried real tears over those broken jewels of my childhood. Every evening after supper, I sat in the porch swing with a soft cotton cloth, polishing each bulb the way Daddy taught me, testing them one by one with my little yellow voltage tester, wrapping the good ones back in the same yellowed tissue paper Mama used in 1970. I prayed over every bulb like rosary beads. And I waited for the first Saturday in December, light up night, the one night a year the whole town comes to see the real Christmas, because I had decided Ruth was going to learn that some lights don't get replaced. Some lights just get turned on brighter. Light Up Night in Willow Creek is bigger than the county fair and twice as sacred. It has been ever since 1969, the year Daddy first flipped the switch. Folks start planning in October. The fire department polishes the 1,948 Ward LaFrance truck until you can see your future in the chrome. The high school band practices carols on the football field until the tubas freeze. The garden club lines the entire lane with luminaries, white paper bags, sand, and a tea candle each, so the road looks like a runway for angels. By 5 o'clock, the sidewalks are packed 4 and 5 deep with lawn chairs, blankets, toddlers on shoulders, and thermoses steaming in the cold. 214 Dogwood Lane has always been the grand finale. People save us for last, the way you save the last bite of coconut cake. In 2023, I decided to make it the grandest finale Willow Creek had ever seen, and Ruth was going to be center stage whether she liked it or not. I started baking the day after Halloween. 14 pecan pies, because the Lions Club president swears mine cured his gout. 10 sour cream pound cakes, each one wrapped in cheesecloth and fed a tablespoon of Old Forester every Sunday. 8 red velvets with ermine frosting thick enough to spackle a wall. 7 sheet pans of bourbon balls rolled in powdered sugar until my hands looked like I'd been caught in a snowstorm. 6 coconut cakes. 5 chess pies. 4 apple stack cakes that took 3 days apiece. 3 turtle cheesecakes. 2 pans of sweet potato casserole with the brown sugar pecan crust, and 1 12-layer chocolate cake just because I felt like showing off. I simmered 8 gallons of spiced cider on the back burner until the whole house smelled like the inside of a gingerbread church. I handwrote 142 invitations on heavy cream cardstock with holly borders and mailed them myself so Ruth couldn't help. The first Saturday in December 2023, the temperature dropped to 22 degrees. The sky dusted us with the kind of snow that looks like the Lord sifted powdered sugar through a sieve. Perfect. By 5:30, the sidewalk was packed tighter than jeans after Thanksgiving. Children sat on father's shoulders in puffy coats that made them look like colored marshmallows. Old men leaned on canes and told the same stories they told last year. The fire truck flashed red and green down by the corner. The band played "Oh Come All Ye Faithful," so pretty you wanted to cry. The luminaries flickered like 1,000 quiet prayers. At 5:55 p.m., I walked out onto the porch in the red wool coat. Mama made the year Elvis died. Still fits, thank you very much. My knees popped like popcorn the whole way down the steps, but I made it to my little wooden step stool that I had hidden under a tarp in the shed since October so Ruth couldn't sabotage it again. I climbed up slow, said the same prayer Daddy said every year, "Lord, let there be light," and reached for the heavy orange extension cord. Before my fingers touched the plug, the screen door flew open with a bang that rattled the nativity. Out stormed Ruth in full store-bought Mrs. Claus regalia. Red velvet dress with white faux fur trim, matching hat with a jingle bell on the tip, and a face redder than a holly berry. She had spent $149.99 plus tax at Belk, charged to my credit card without asking, and looked like an angry peppermint on legs. Evelyn Marie Harper, she hissed loud enough for the front row to hear. You are not turning on those ugly, dangerous, outdated fire hazards. I bought new lights, and we are using them. The crowd went still as a held breath. I smiled the sweetest widow lady smile I had saved up for just this moment, reached into my coat pocket, and pulled out the cordless microphone I'd borrowed from the Baptist church karaoke machine. I clicked it on, little red light glowed like a tiny coal, and held it up so the whole street could hear. Folks, I said, voice carrying clear as a church bell on Sunday morning, y'all have been coming to see these lights since 1969. Some of you were in diapers then. Some of you helped Daddy hang the first strand. These bulbs are older than half the houses on this street, and they are staying. A cheer went up from the back like a wave. Then I turned to Ruth, still smiling, and spoke right into the microphone so there was no pretending later. But my sister Ruth here seems to think different. Ruthie, honey, why don't you tell all these good Christian people how you spent $437.62 of my Social Security money on plastic reindeer and cold white icicle lights after I told you plain that the 1,969 bulbs were staying? And how you called the power company pretending to be me? And how you've been telling the beauty barn, the Piggly Wiggly, and half the county that I'm too senile to manage my own Christmas? You could have heard a snowflake land on a cat's whisker. Pastor Bob's cider came out his nose. Fire Chief Mooney crossed his arms and gave Ruth the same look he gives teenagers with cherry bombs. Mrs. Abernathy actually clutched her pearls and said, well, I never loud enough for the trumpet section to hear. The animatronic reindeer Ruth had insisted on still in the yard, plugged in, picked that exact moment to short circuit and belt out Grandma got run over by a reindeer at full volume. Ruth opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. All that came out was a squeak and a puff of white breath that hung in the air like a tiny surrender flag. I turned back to the crowd, raised the plug high like Lady Liberty with her torch, and said, Merry Christmas, Willow Creek. And I plugged those 1,969 C9 seconds in. The house lit up like God himself reached down and flipped the switch. Those big, warm, jewel-tone bulbs blazed against the white clapboards exactly the way they did the night Daddy first hung them, the night men walked on the moon, the night Mama cried happy tears into her apron. The crowd let out one huge collective ah ha ha that floated up past the eaves and into the starry sky like a hymn. Phones came out, tears came out, somebody's baby started clapping. Mrs. Jenkins dabbed her eyes with the same lace hanky she's carried since 1982 and declared it was just like heaven come to Dogwood Lane. Ruth stood frozen on the top step for 3 full seconds. Then she spun around so fast her jingle bell hat flew off, stormed back inside, and slammed the door hard enough to make the baby Jesus in the nativity scene face plant into the straw for the second time that night. The crowd gave me a standing ovation right there on the frozen grass. The band struck up Joy to the World, and by the third verse the whole street was singing, voices rising up past those beautiful old bulbs into the cold, clear Kentucky night like the sweetest revenge anybody ever heard. I stood on that little wooden step stool until the last note of Joy to the World drifted away on the snow. My knees were shaking, partly from the cold and partly from the pure, holy triumph running through my 78-year-old veins like the first sip of bourbon after a long, hard year. The crowd kept cheering. Somebody started "We Wish You a Merry Christmas," and pretty soon the whole street was singing again. Children ran up the walk to hug my legs. Fire Chief Mooney saluted me with his cider cup. Pastor Bob shouted amen, loud enough for the Baptists and the Methodists both to hear. Ruth never came back out. Not once. I saw her shadow behind the lace curtains a time or two, but the door stayed shut tighter than a banker's heart on Sunday. When the last carol faded and the last car pulled away around 9:30, I unplugged the lights. Daddy always said never leave them burning, unattended, locked the front door, and went inside to a house that suddenly felt 10 times bigger and 100 times quieter. Ruth's bedroom door upstairs was closed. I could hear drawers slamming and zippers growling like angry dogs. I paid it no mind. I made myself a cup of Ovaltine, cut a slice of bourbon-soaked fruitcake thick enough to choke a horse, and sat in Daddy's rocker by the fireplace until the logs burned down to embers. Christmas Eve morning, I woke to the smell of scorched coffee and the sound of Suitcase wheels thundering down the stairs like a herd of runaway mules. Ruth appeared in the kitchen doorway at 8 o'clock sharp, wearing the same fake mink coat she'd arrived in 2 years earlier, hatbox in one hand, leopard print suitcase in the other, face powdered so thick as funeral home makeup but still red around the eyes. "I called Ronnie," she announced, chin high like she was Queen Elizabeth abdicating. "He's coming to get me at 10. I refused to spend one more night under this roof with a selfish, stubborn old woman who'd rather live in the past than let the house burn down than accept progress. I was buttering toast. I didn't even look up. "Safe travels, Ruthie," I said, calm as Sunday. "Mind you take every single one of those plastic reindeer. The yard looks like a parking lot carnival with them in it." She sucked in air like a dying fish. I thought for a second she might throw the hatbox at my head, but instead she spun on her heel and marched back upstairs. By 9:30, every trace of Ruth was gone from the blue bedroom except a faint cloud of Avon Moonwind perfume and a single false eyelash stuck to the bathroom mirror like a dead spider. At 9:58, Ronnie's bowling ball polished Cadillac pulled into the driveway. He loaded the suitcases without a word he'd learned long ago not to get between the Harper sisters when the claws were out. Ruth paused on the porch just long enough to deliver her parting shot. "You always were selfish, Evelyn Marie. Don't expect me at your funeral." She left a note on the kitchen table in her dramatic back-slanted handwriting. "You won this round, but blood is thicker than Christmas lights. Don't think I won't be back when you're too feeble to climb that stupid stool. Merry Christmas, R." I read it once, folded it into a neat square, and used it to start the fire in the fireplace that night. Watch the words curl, blacken, and float up the chimney like the lies they were. I spent Christmas Eve the way I always have since 1984, alone, but never lonely. I glazed a ham with brown sugar and pineapple rings. I made cornbread dressing the way Mama taught me, sage, celery, and just enough black pepper to make you sit up and pay attention. I set the table for one with Mama's spode china, and the good silver all 24 teaspoons accounted for. I lit every candle in the house, turned on the tree lights, and sat down to supper while the snow fell soft and silent outside the window. After dishes, I wrapped myself in Mama's star quilt, carried a mug of cider out to the porch swing, and rocked slow while those big 1,969 C9 seconds glowed against the snow. They flickered exactly like they did the night Daddy first hung them warm, proud, unchanged, the same colors he chose the week men walked on the moon. I thought about Tommy, about Mama and Daddy, about the little girl I used to be standing barefoot on this same porch in 1969 thinking nothing could ever be more beautiful than those lights. I was right. Ruth has not called, written, texted, sent a Christmas card, or darkened my door since that morning. Her bedroom is now my sewing room. The peonies came up red as ever last spring, and the 2024 light-up night crowd was the biggest yet. The fire chief asked if he could bring his grandbabies by early so they could see the real Christmas lights, the ones that still got soul. This December I will be 79, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. The fruit cake is already soaking in its bourbon bath. The cider spices are measured. The step stool is hidden where no jealous sister will ever find it again, and every single 1,969 bulb is polished, tested, and wrapped in tissue, waiting for their night. Some victories don't need lawyers, sheriffs, or shouting matches. Some victories just need 56 years of stubborn love, a porch full of neighbors who know the truth when they see it, and one string of old-fashioned Christmas lights bright enough to show the whole town exactly who tried to dim your shine, and who kept it burning pure and warm. Kentucky glory. So when the snow starts to fly, drive slow down Dogwood Lane. Bring the young uns, bring Coco, bring your memories and your mama and your grandbabies. I'll save you the best seat on the sidewalk, a slice of fruitcake that'll make you hear angels sing, and a cup of cider warm enough to thaw the coldest heart. Just don't ask me to change a single bulb. Some things are sacred, and some Kentucky women, even old ones, still know how to make their light shine exactly the way God, Daddy, and pure cuss determination intended. Merry Christmas, y'all. The porch light's always on, and it always will be.